So David Bedrick is a teacher, counselor, and attorney. He grew up in a family marked by violence. While his father's brutality was physical and verbal, his mother's denial and gaslighting had its own covert power. This formative context introduced David early to the etiology of shame and instilled an urge to unshame. Professionally, he was on the faculty for the University of Phoenix and the Process Work Institute in the US and Poland, and is the founder of the Santa Fe Institute for Shame-Based Studies, where he trains therapists, coaches, and healers and offers workshops to individuals to further their own professional development. So he writes for Psychology Today and is the author of 3 books: Talking Back to Dr. Phil, Alternatives to Mainstream Psychology; Revisioning Activism, Bringing Depth, Dialogue, and Diversity to Individual and Social Change; and then his newest book, which came out, I believe it was last year now. No, this is not true. You can't judge a body by its cover, but the newest book is The Unshaming Way. That's what came out last year. Yeah, so there's 4 books. So I will now hand it over to you, David, to kick us off. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I was going to say welcome, but I'm more being welcomed at the moment. So I'll take that in. This morning, I'm always a bit, I was going to say I'm always a bit nervous before I present to anybody, even though I've been doing that for decades. But it's not exactly nervousness, because it's an energy that lives in my body. Do you know that? So once things start moving, it looks more like passion and feelings and all kinds of other things. So there's an energy in my body. If it's not allowed to express, it's like shaky and awkward and uncomfortable. And then my mind says, oh, you're nervous, calm down. Does that make sense? Anybody have that experience? That's important to me because of the way we treat ourselves and label ourselves is part of what I want to talk about, and how we often misinterpret and the costs of that to our voices and activist voices. As I was, I don't know, I call it meditating, reflecting before I teach, I always hang out with whatever, I call that the atmosphere or the field or whatever's going on to see. And I kept remembering that 30 plus years ago now, I took, in the United States, was called the bar exam. That's after you finish law school, you get to be licensed and you have to take an exam. It's a state and federal exam. And it's a 6-hour exam, 3 hours of these multiple choice questions, 3 hours of multiple choice questions. Isn't that crazy? So I was sitting there focusing as hard as I could and being a good student. I'm going to try to do well. I'm going to try to get a great grade. I was trying so hard. And all of a sudden, about an hour in, my eyes started getting blurry and I was having a hard time reading the questions. And then within minutes, they got really blurry. And then with a couple of minutes, I couldn't read. Like, no matter what I did, it was just a gray page. And of course, I'm like, oh crap, oh shit, what am I gonna do? I can't take this test. What should I do? And I'm like rubbing my eyes on whatever I'm gonna do. I went to the bathroom. I fell on the floor crying. I can't believe I spent all this time and all these years and all this money. I'm not gonna be able to pass the exam. And I let go. I'm like, oh, well, this is not going to happen. I can't make my eyes do something different. And I went back into the exam room to turn the exam in, and my eyes focused again. And in addition to that's what's on my mind this morning, and what happens when this human being, me, pressures himself and has a psychology in the background that says, you better do well, you better do well. And then sometimes the body doesn't go along with that. And most of us want to treat the body symptom, the blurry eyes in this case. We'll talk a lot more about different kinds of symptoms. You want to treat them as a way to relieve them, make them go away, so that I can be productive, let's say, get a good grade, be the person I should be the husband I want to be, whatever those categories are, I want to do that. But yet the symptom itself has its own intelligence. And I think of symptoms as activist in nature. They disrupt the status quo. I'm not saying it was good it would be good if I couldn't take the exam. But if I could speak for my eyes, I would say, too much. David, this is not that important to you. Find another way. And I did wrestle with that symptom after I passed the exam. I became an attorney. I spent my first year and a half working for clinics doing only pro bono work because I didn't want to just do a good job. I wanted to serve people, even though I had graduated top of my class. Um, Symptoms are activist in nature. So I want to say a word about my own personal story as a way of introducing the idea of shame. And then I have a series of stories and then some videos that I hope will weave together content that's enlivening and you can relate to with an idea about activism and psychology, in-depth psychology. So I grew up in a home, Cassandra said, marked by violence. My father used fists and belts to express his rage. He worked a day job, a night job, and a weekend job. That's part of the story. But from my perspective, the child perspective, I meet this man not too often, and he's, "Urgh," and he comes home and he's, what's going on? And he's got fists and he's got belts and he's scary as shit. I'm 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's much bigger than me. He's not like I'm upset with you and having a conversation or even punishing. I'm not saying that would be good with fists and belts, but he's a man in a rage. And I was frightened and I would tell my mom, Mom, what's happening? Why is he like that? Help me. This is scary. I'm hurting. I'm scared. And my mother would say, What are you talking about? Your father would never hurt anybody. You get so upset about nothing, David. Can you hear that? So I think of that story in an important way for me and everything else I want to tell you about. So let's say this is me. I'm a person vulnerable to a bigger power. I could be a child with a parent. I could be a person of color with a police officer in the United States. I could be a person walking into a hospital scared and having doctors address me. I could be a student with a teacher. There could be some power difference, right? And then this person can act in a way that's hurtful to this person, right? I make that in like a hit, but the hit doesn't have to be a physical hit, right? It could be all kinds of different things that injure a person. Words could injure a person. Neglect could injure a person. I don't pay attention to you could injure a person. If I said, anybody have questions? And there were 7 women and 1 man, and then I listened to the man and then another man, and I listened to that man, and I ignored all the women. I'm assaulting you at some level. We might call that a microaggression. And some women would start to feel, what's going on? If they're awake, they would say, I don't like this treatment. Did you notice that bias? That doesn't feel so good. Why did you bring this guy in here? If you didn't notice and you were used to that, you would just think, well, I'm not as important. You would internalize that in some way. So there's me and there's my father. Okay. We could call him an abuser. That would be an appropriate term. That's not the most important thing at the moment. And then in my story, there's a mom. It wouldn't have to be a mom. I'm not picking on moms. It just happened to be in my story. And my mom had a certain role in my story. She was a witness. I call that a witness. So she says, let me tell you what's happening, David. Let me interpret this for you. Let me give you the narrative by which you will walk around in life with. Okay. So I call this witness a shaming witness. I internalize this. And instead of thinking that was bad, I got hurt, this is no good, I'm glad somebody's protecting me, somebody sees what I see, they're validating my experience. I walk away thinking, what's going on? What's wrong with me? Why am I upset? Am I misinterpreting things? Does my hurt really not matter? That consciousness, what's wrong with me? Maybe I don't even matter. How come people aren't upset about what's happening for me? That consciousness is the consciousness of shame. Now I have that inside. I internalize my father's violence, right? I can treat myself that way. You better do a good job today, David. I can have that inside. My father as an internalized character, as an introject, we can call it, and psychologically, whatever we call that, it's an internalized experience of my father. But then I have an internalized experience of my mother in this case, the witness. Now, a witness can be anybody. It can be a culture, right? You could in the United States, if you're a person of color and you go into the hospital, you're less likely to be treated like you're in pain and given pain medication and taken seriously. So in that case, you're already in pain, something's happening, and the whole hospital system is a kind of a witness. So, or you could go to the police and say, something terrible happened, and they can say, well, what did you do? What were you wearing? Now the police system is a witness. Or you could go to a religious system and they can say, learn to forgive. And that whole religious system is a witness. Makes sense? I'm bringing my violent story to you and you witness it. And the way you witness it, if I'm vulnerable to you, I'm young or I have more shame in me, I internalize that. And that's really important. Okay, I want to say more about that, but let me just give you that framework for what shame is, because there's a lot of confusions about what shame actually is. It's an ill-defined term. I want to spend an hour talking to you about what shame actually is and isn't, and all the ill-defined terms. But if I give you stories, that may be more instructive, and we could get there. So as a kid, my voice didn't really matter, and I'm going to say it this way, and my body developed experiences. One was what they called insecurity or sometimes shyness. I was later learned I was not a shy kid. People said, David's a shy kid. When I learned more about the trauma of my early life, I realized I'm not shy at all. I love hanging out with people. Actually, I was frightened. Now, can you hear the difference between those two? If you looked at me and you said, oh, David's shy, you might say, oh, David, that's okay. We'll make a nice, welcoming atmosphere for you. Right? But if you knew I'm frightened, you're like, frightened of what? Shyness is a personality aspect, an aspect of my character or personhood. Frightened means something is happening for me. Seeing me saying I'm frightened and you wanting to know what I'm scared of or what made me so frightened, that's not shaming. That's an actual witness looking at me as only a shy person. I call that pathologizes me. You have something about you. Shyness is not such a bad thing to be. But I had insecurity for many years of my life, still do at times. And then I got really incredible stomach aches. My stomach aches as a child were so severe that a number of times my parents had to take me to the hospital. They never found a physical thing. So now I have this two symptoms. One of them is we call it insecurity. I'm a mess. I'm not a confident child. I'm a shy child. That's not true. I'm a scared child. And then the other is I have a stomach ache. And my stomach aches were able to do something that nobody could do in my family. They totally stopped the violence. Everything stopped. And David became the center of attention. And David got taken to the hospital. David needs something. Somebody would say, well, he needed attention. Not only attention, I needed a certain kind of attention, attention to what my stomach was doing. This is too painful. I can't stand that. Sometimes people say, oh, they just need attention. Can you hear the word just need attention? Just need attention means you ought to need attention. That's a psychological problem. You just need attention. You're attention seeking, etc. That's a way of pathologizing, right? Gaslighting. Oh, he's got a psychological problem. He's an attention seeker. We have to address that. There's not an attending to that he is needing and asking for. My stomach was able to do that. Symptoms do that. Symptoms are activist in nature, not just chronic and physical symptoms, but psychological symptoms. Almost all symptoms in psychological world, in the healing world, I want to say this a little bit stronger than maybe I should, but if I don't say it strong enough, I won't get the message across. So bear with me. Addictions are treating as pathologies. Addiction is a symptom. It's an experience. It's treated like a problem to get rid of. I agree. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to the culture. It's dangerous to the person. People die, among other things, hurt themselves. And addictions have intelligence in them. They're genuine hungers in every addictive interest, every addictive tendency, substance, or act has a hunger for an experience in it, not just medicated and safety, nuanced. Depressions have intelligence in them. You could antidepress me, and you could have that through a pill or through you wanting to build me up or make me more confident. lift me up, but some depressions take a person down. Does that make sense? I could be, if a person like me, more or less privileged person who's high achieving, got depressed, it might be good for me to go down into my feelings, stop being so productive. I'm not saying depression itself is the best way to do it, but my system does it that way. And if you help me experience the depression, not analyze it and theorize about it, be depressed, David. Ugh. Can you see my body, what it did? Ugh. That client comes in and they go and go, hi, and they flop down in their chair. Their body goes down. They hold their heads up. How you doing? Yeah, I'm okay. Can you hear it? That's the person who's trying to be up with this hand. Their words are, I'm okay, but things are not going so okay. There's a downward energy in that person. And the downward energy is where the medicine is. That's where their symptoms are going to talk about their feelings, what they're doing, the work they really want to do, griefs that they've held, feelings that they don't know what to do with. So, and all kinds of things. Anger, incredibly gaslighted from the culture. We don't want to see angry people. We want to see gentle, harmonious, easy people. There's a little bit of that changing, but so many of the psychological experiences that we treat have messages. They're activist in nature. They're not going along with the status quo of the person and often the group and culture around them. It's really important to talk about that more, and let's talk about that more when we get to questions and answers, because that's a radical way of thinking. But I haven't met an experience yet in 35 years of working with people that I couldn't see in that way, not by framing it, but by unfolding it. I'm going to talk about what unfolding means. I'm trying to slow myself down and speed myself up because I want to do both. Um, A woman came to me many years ago. By the way, all the stories I'm have permission to tell you. Her story is in my third book. It's called You Can't Judge a Body by Its Cover. It's women's stories about sexism and body shame, but not the story of this is what I did to go on a diet. They're the inside story. This is my story. This is the violence. This is what it's like living in a world where my body gets judged. This is a body that gets big enough so that people aren't attracted to it and treat it a certain way. This is a body that shrinks so much that I could become invisible, etc. This is a body that has expression in it, not just a need to change my eating habits. Being healthier is good, and the messages of the body and their activist nature um, is really important. Okay, that's a whole topic we could talk about. So she came to me and she said, she told me an abuse story that when she was a youth, she was sexually violated, abused by a clergy, a priest. I'm slowing down because sometimes my students say, people get triggered by some of those things, David, so you should notice that. So I'll take a moment if you have feelings about that, that you can care for. Attending to the body and feelings, that would be a cultural change, wouldn't it? People debate all the time, and there's no feeling quality. I watch people debate. I used to be a debate champion from after my years of law school. And then I realized people have feelings and there's no feelings. Logical arguments are great, but a lot of the difficulties in the world are held by feeling issues that aren't unfolded and known, not just to get rid of them, but as the answers. So she told me about that story, and um, and that's not why she originally came to me. She originally came to me because she said she had issues around anger and eating. She ate a lot and she wanted to learn, how can I learn to forgive? How can I be easier? How can I let this go? Okay. Think about the story. So here's her, here's the violation. I'm using the pens backwards, I think. But anyway, here's her, here's the violation, and something witnesses her. In that case, it was a higher up in the clergy that she went to who said, this is a good man, you should learn to forgive him. And then a whole system that would say, learn to forgive. I'm not trying to pick on the Catholic Church. We could go into an organization. We can go, I'm Jewish, we can go into the temples, we can go into mosques, we can go into New Age communities. So I'm not trying to say one religion has got that versus others, but now there's a witness. And when she comes to therapy, she doesn't tell me an abuse story. She tells me an eating and anger story and a lack of forgiveness story. How come she doesn't say, I had this intense experience of my life that I'm still tripping over? Because the narrative she learned was from the witness. And she was vulnerable and she believes that. And she believes she's an unforgiving person who eats too much and can't control her diet. That's what she believes. She doesn't think her body is doing things with her eating, very much of what I was saying, padding herself in certain ways. Not everybody does that, but that's what she described it as. I should tell that detail at some point. Um, and she's focusing on forgiveness. And if she came out in the larger culture and said, I was abused and I've learned to forgive, everyone would be happy. Many people would think, isn't she amazing? How could she forgive? The culture itself would bless her. Incredible, you got through all that and you're such a forgiving person. Wow, I want to be like that. But if she came out and they interviewed her and she was furious, she wouldn't get the praise of her moral development from the culture. So it wouldn't just be the church, right? In the United States, there was a Dylan Roof, a young white man, walked into a black church. Stories are hard for me to even tell without the feeling. And he shot and killed 9 people, 9 black people. And some of those people came out and said, my family member died, but I've learned to forgive. That's fine. I'm okay. I have no accusation or conflict or criticalness of that person. What I do have a critical eye towards is the culture that says, isn't she amazing? Isn't she amazing? She should be who she is. But then the culture who wants to hear that, as opposed to, I'll never forgive these people for what they did. It's just 3 days after you. What do you expect? That's not going to be on prime time. That's going to be somewhere on the internet in Facebook or Instagram or somewhere else. That's a witnessing culture. And that witnessing culture says, this is the narrative we like. Let's act in a way that censors certain activist impulses and lifts up those things which are less disturbing to the status quo. Yeah. Mhm. I guess I tell this one quick piece about that. In my book, I have a whole story about her. One time I was working with her and she had said, I'm going to go too fast, but I want to make the point and offer you the detail. I asked her, she said she was frightened. And I said, what would make you more comfortable? And then she said she would leave, she would get into bed or go into the covers or something like that. And I asked her if she wanted to continue the session and do that. She said, no, she didn't want to stop the session. And I said, what would it be? Let's think about what would it be like to be under those covers that would help you? And she said, it would be like wearing more clothes. I said, like what? What would you have to put on? And she said, I would put on sweatpants and a sweatshirt. And I said, would you feel better then, safer then, more at ease? She said, kinda, which means no, I'm not quite safe yet. Right? I have to hear that. And then I said, what would you have to put on? She said, 2 more sweatshirts and 2 more sweatpants. I have to wear 3 sweatshirts and 3 sweatpants. Isn't that amazing? Her body does that. Her body says, 3 sweatshirts, 3 sweatpants is how I want to walk around. Her body says, if you want to help me with my body image and my weight and my self-hatred around my weight, please help me with feeling safe in the world. Don't put me on a diet program because the diet programs over years and years and years don't work, but because safety is my #1 concern. She doesn't know that. She can't say that. She tells a forgiveness story, but her body says, put sweatshirts around me. Make me more able to create safety for myself by hiding, by pulling back, by withdrawing, or by protecting myself or developing, I call it immune system, fierceness and protective instincts and resistances and fight backs. Yeah. Our body is intelligent, as many bodies are around that issue. All bodies around that issue. Okay. Um, I don't know all the, I think I have a little awkwardness inside of me today that's not going away only easily because I don't know the group and the group of people. I don't have to, but we haven't gotten to interact yet. And building relationship for me always makes me feel like I get where people are at and the interaction is different. So just noticing my inner experience. Should I make that go away? Would it be better if I didn't have that? No, it's better that I'm me. Awkward or not awkward, insecure, secure, all those different things. It's better that I'm me. That's the way that I can teach best. Somebody says they have questions. Should I take a question before I go on? Maybe I'll do that. Does somebody want to, should I read those or does somebody want to speak? Either way, that'll be okay. If somebody can put a hand up if you had that question, then I can see it. I can let you come onto the screen. We can get the question together. Was that there or?
I think there's someone called Joe who says they have two questions, whether they can come off mute.
Or if you're more comfortable typing them, you can also write it in the chat.
Either way, anything's good. Seeing people I love to do. If it's not comfortable, chat. Well,
Oh, hi there.
hi, Joe.
Hi there. Hi, David. Well, the first thing I'd like to say is, I think the way you articulate yourself is beautiful. The way you
Thank you.
share your experiencing, how acutely sensitive you are of what you're experiencing. And I experienced, like, from childhood or being young, not being able to express myself freely, how empowering that must be incredibly for people who feel inhibited and can't express themselves. And I feel like you're
Yeah.
breaking down a lot of doors or walls to be able to do that and
Yeah.
destigmatizing people who feel shame and feelings of abuse. I think that's really, really powerful.
Oh,
And
thank
I
you. I'm
wanted, I
glad.
wanted to share that firstly.
Yeah.
And second,
You must have an incredible sensitivity to notice that and want to tell me that. That's what I think. I think, oh, he shares that. And then if we were in a group and somebody else said, "Oh, I'm kind of sensitive," and somebody else said, "I'm not really like that. I'm like this," then the whole group would get not just safer and easier for me, but it would become more authentic and real, right? And people would put away their
oh,
I'm good face, and then we make a different culture in the community at the moment. Yeah, go ahead.
amazing. That's amazing. You sound like you see, there's so much about Carl Rogers I see in you. The way you articulate yourself experientially is that acute sensitivity is really
Mm,
profound,
thank
really
you.
profound.
Thank you.
And sorry
Thank
if I
you.
could just say those questions. I don't know if they're too long-winded or not. You have to cut me off if it's too much.
Try to make it a little bit tight if you can so that I can get to other material. And then at the end, we're going to have
Okay.
more time. So do your best.
Okay. The first one is a theoretical question. The second one's an experiential practitioner question.
Great. I
So
love both of those.
the first question is, how does your own work relate to Gendlin's theory of experiencing and Arnold Mindell's theory of experiencing with process work? So process work and focusing. And how do you revise that in terms of how you approach work?
It's a great question. We could spend, well, I don't remember Genling as well because it's been a long time. Arnie Mindell, I studied with him for 34 years, and 'cause he was kind of a mentor of mine from 34 years old. I'm 70 now till he died 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago that he died now? I think it was 1 or 2 years ago. Yeah. So he had a lot of impact on me. What we call somatic experience today, what many people call somatic experience, Mindell was calling the dreaming bodies experience. And really meant the same exact thing, meaning what's the experience of the body in its feeling, he would call it in its sensory groundedness. Tension in if I'm awkward, there's a tension here. I'm noticing a little shaking in here. I notice my hands would shake if I let them free. That's sensory grounded. That's not like I'm nervous. Nervous is a label. And Mindell would say, let's go into the sensory grounded. What's it like in the senses of the body? And then people like Peter Levine and others are also forwarding the idea of somatic experience. They're doing something very similar. Mendel had some other ideas about what the body was doing, that the body was dreaming, meaning the body had intelligence equal to the same as the intelligence of a nighttime dream. So that means it was informative about the way we want to live. The more conventional views of somatic experience of the Peter Levines used to work with trauma are these are experiences that we can help get to know a person so that they can be relieved, so the nervous system can be disconnected a little bit more from such a heavy experience and feel more healed and more calm. But it doesn't then add the sense of experience has meaning to it.
I think what
Is
you're
that
saying, which I think is beautiful, what you're saying, which I really like, is you're saying that instead of seeing things in a traditional psychoanalytic view of the conscious and unconscious with abstract theories and interpretations, you're saying we have experiential consciousness that we're aware of, and then we have a dreaming body where our dream consciousness and body consciousness are in relationship with each other. And it's
Yes.
trying to actually bridge the gap between these different consciousnesses to actually expand our awareness of what's happening. On
That's
some
right.
level, we're conscious of so much,
Yeah.
but it's more on the periphery.
Yeah, you could say my stomach, I didn't know my stomach ache was, I'm going to call it intelligent, right? We know it's difficult. It'd be nice if I didn't have stomach aches. But I still have a stomach that some people would say I have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. I still have a stomach that's sensitive, just like the person you're seeing me as. My stomach knows that. My digestive system has its sensitivities. And when things are going on in my life, my digestive system, my colon, my stomach, my intestines, they tell me. So I didn't make them go away. I'm more sensitive. I don't eat certain things. But when my stomach is doing things, I think, oh, I know what's happening. So it's an ally of my life, my stomach and my IBS. It's not only an illness to get rid of, as it were. It has dreaming
I
intelligence.
resonate massively with that because recently, a couple of years ago, I experienced a lot of emotional trauma
Hmm.
beyond being psychologically tolerable, and it
Hmm.
led to like excruciating bowel pain, like literally hours on end. And it was
Yeah.
almost like the psychological wanted to be heard through the body. It was just so
Yeah.
profound, and no one could
Yeah.
understand what the physical cause was.
Yeah. That's really common. I've done a lot of work with chronic illness. That would be anyway. I think I
Right.
better go back to the thing though. So let me go
The
back to my
second
first.
on this, I've got the second question. I don't know if the second question, if I could just say,
Give it a shot.
which is
I'll
more,
try to do it.
it's more critical actually, and I'm playing more devil's advocate. Is
Okay.
I was thinking in terms of the therapeutic relationship or even personal relationships, that to be that, maybe it's about myself as well as yourself, is how can you be so profoundly self-aware and sensitive to your own experiencing, but yet be able to shift that to have that intensity of experiencing the other, and then somehow you can experience each other in terms of an intersubjectivity. How do you
Mhm.
make that shift and not get stuck in that one set of either completely immersed in yourself or completely immersed in the other person?
Yeah. I don't know how people do that. I know for me, if you said, David, I have an issue that I'm really wrestling with, all of my attention would go on you and I'd be watching everything you do. I'd be watching the color of your skin, your eyes. I'm noticing your cheeks and your facial hair. And for some reason, that lives in me. And the more intense a difficulty a person brings to me, the more I pay attention. So I have a very specific form of attention. It's a highly focused one. Maybe I can demonstrate that later. Hmm. I'm not sure
Right.
how the change happens. If there's a aspect of me that's constantly coming up, that's drawing me into my own feeling experience, then as a therapist, then I need to work on that so that I'm freer to access it, to marginalize it, consciously marginalize it. Does it make sense? I'm nervous today, but now I'm talking to Joe. So if I can't do that, if I'm unable to do that, then I need to become more at home with that experience and find where it ought to live. Does that make
Because
sense?
I'm trying to say how do we like in terms of like therapeutic personality change, how do we go from like a shift from shame to self-love to loving others, like a one-way love to a two-way love? That's what
That's
I
a good
find really
question.
complex, and I don't know if there's an answer for that.
Yeah, I think it's a, well, yeah, I think it's inner work, you work on your own, the things that hold you. And then some of those things, hopefully you'll learn about, connect you with other people, that the things that hold you are not only separate from those around you and those not around you. That's an important thing. Then there's a set of skills. How do you pay attention to the details of what your client is offering and know what to do about it? So it's inner work, awareness. How do I see what's happening for my client that they're showing me in addition to telling me? And then the third thing is a set of skills. That's how I teach it. Anyway, I'm going to move
Sorry,
on.
sorry. I really appreciate everyone's patience, and I
Yeah,
really appreciate it. It's really empowered myself
you're
as well.
welcome. I want to talk more, but let's in the break. If other people, if you have questions and you do,
Thank you.
let's go into that. And I can. It would be the best way for me to answer some of those questions would be to model, and I would happy to show you something. Somebody could bring something forward, and I would show you what I would do. Okay, we're talking about activism. We're talking about social action. We're talking about symptoms as activist in nature. We're talking about the problem of the witness. The witness is, if the witness dismisses, denies, or gaslights, dismisses, denies, gaslights, or neglects an experience, then the person, if they're vulnerable, begins to think, what's wrong with me? Maybe I don't really matter. That shame, that experience. If that goes in, then the person walks around not thinking, I have a story, I have something, I don't like the way I'm being treated. I have an early story that I want to tell. This is a world that I'm sensitive to. What's happening in Palestine moves my body. They think, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And they go to get help with that. We censor their activist nature. We don't treat their symptoms and experiences as having intelligence. For them, that would change their status quo and probably the status quo of those people around them. Um, okay. I once worked with a woman who uh, she came to me with a stutter. I wasn't going to tell this story, but it's on my mind. She came to me with a stutter. And she wanted that stutter to go away. Big surprise, right? Because it's disturbing her. It wasn't easy for her. She wanted to be a poet that went to poetry slams, and she was terrified to do that, even to speak a poem online and record it and to tell people. And she would say, I'm not going to mimic her, but I want to show you how she would speak. She would say, the David, like that. The David. That's how she would speak, right? So, and I did something that would be interested. I am an ally of her symptom. I'm not against her symptom. I don't start by saying, how do we make that go away? I would love it for her to be relieved of it and have an easier life. But first, I want to know what the symptom is doing. She had been to speech therapy and they tried to make her calm. They gave her breathing exercises, all kinds of things. And sometimes when she was calmer, it got a little better. But sometimes she wasn't calm and it wasn't better, but it helped some. And I said to her, let's stutter together. She looked at me like her eyes got up wide, like, what are you talking about? I'm trying not to stutter. I'm like, but I don't know what you're doing, you see. I'm not saying that to her, but I'm saying it to you. I don't know what she's doing. Let's stutter together. So let's say her name was Nancy. So I say, no, no, Nancy. She says, David. No, no, Nancy. David. No, no. And we do that for a couple of minutes. And she's glowing, gleaming, smiling. We're laughing together. How come? Why are we're not teasing her. We're not making fun of her. Why is her system animated, almost joyful? Why is she having a good time? This is an incredible question for you all to think about. I don't have an answer, although when I bring experiences into community with others, something happens that's really relieving. It makes the person feel well as they are. Okay. Let me tell you what a stutter is. Okay. Listen. I'm going to exaggerate a stutter now. The David, the David. I'm exaggerating the stutter. Some people would have it that strong. Now think about that. As a body, as an experience, what's happening? There's an energy that's trying to get out, right? And then it goes, ja, David, da. Can you feel that? It's trying to get out, and something stops it. Otherwise, it's going to go, David. It goes, and then it breaks out. So all stutters have, that I've ever worked with, many have two energies. Something that makes it hard for the word or sound to come out, and then an intention to make it come out. So I say, let's make that David stronger. David, let's go for it. So now she's going, David, and really pushing. I'm amplifying. I'm not censoring, shaming, dismissing, denying, shrinking, suppressing her. I'm saying, let's do that more. Let's take the energy of the stutter and make it bigger. Let's bring you out. Let's say, I'm not a forgiving person. Let's say I have stomach aches. I want to stop everything. Let's really get to know this. So she's doing that, and I say, can you put a word that would go along with this energy that you're making? Duh, duh. Some of you could think of a word that she might say. If it's okay to curse, it's probably okay to curse. And the word that she comes up with is fuck. I say, let's say that. So she goes, fuck. And then pretty soon she's going, fuck, fuck, fuck. And she's screaming out, no stutter. How come? How come? Why is that so free? Can you imagine a story? Can you imagine a story where this voice that was going to say something that people wouldn't want to hear gets blocked? Becomes a somatic experience. Not everyone somatizes it in that way. I got stomach aches. Other people do other things. Can you see how she could sit around at a dinner table and not kind of go, fuck, because that's not permissible for whatever the reasons are? And now but yet the voice doesn't give up. That's where she lives. That's what lives inside of her. A big booming voice and an impermissibleness to use it the way her psyche would use it. And then she wants to do it poetically. The help that I gave her, that we came up with together actually around the poetry, was to do stutter poems. This is my poem. I like it. Fuck you if you don't. She was amazing. Yeah, we didn't try to change her. We tried to help her become herself, her symptoms being activist in nature about herself, her family, and the culture at large that wants to live in her. I worked with a woman who came to me and she said, I need to be more open. How come? I've had a number of relationships and I just started a new relationship. And I can tell if I'm not going to be open, how am I going to have a good relationship? And I went to a friend and she had a spiritual teacher. I went to a spiritual teacher and they said, you really need to be open if you're going to have a relationship. Okay, think with me. What do you think about that? Help me be more open. Come on, Cassandra, will you help me be more open? Okay, I'd love to help you be more open, David. Thank you, I needed that. What narrative is she coming with? What is she needing? What lives under shame's veil? What's the symptom? Those are all the same questions. What's under shame's veil? Hidden, suppressed, neglected by shame? That's not a good thing. And let's call that thing closedness. Something is not open. Let's call it closedness. The word doesn't matter that much, but let's call it that because it makes sense for the story. Let's call it closedness. With me so far? How do we support the thing that disturbs her status quo? Not the narrative that she's coming to therapy with. I hope I'm gonna help her with her problem. But first I want to know what the symptom is doing. And the symptom is the thing that she thinks she should get rid of. Just like mainstream cultures want to marginalize communities that don't agree, that look, act, feel different. Same thing. Inside the body, inside the experience, is a kind of a dominant culture. Call that an ego, call that a primary process, call that whatever you want to call that. Personality, persona, false self. People have different words. I don't think it's false, but that's one part. And then there's something else that disturbs that. Many people come to get help, and many people say, I'll help you with that. Not thinking I'm helping the marginalized culture get smaller. That's common. Okay. I say to her, what's it like when you're not closed, when you're not open? I don't know. Go ahead and imagine you could be really, really not open. Why am I doing that? The opposite of shame. Shame suppresses, denies, dismisses, neglects. Remember? Let's lift that voice. Let's lift every voice. Let's lift the most marginalized voice. The marginalized voice in her, closed. Is okay. Show me with your body. She puts her hands in front of her face like this, and she moves backward like this, and she says, I would be hiding behind a rock if I could be really closed. Awesome. Imagine you're hiding around by a rock, and how come your fingers are like this? They're not just totally closed. I'm looking at you. You can't see me, but I'm looking at you. It takes a few minutes to do this, not an hour, 10, 15 minutes. It's not like for her to do that. After years of having people telling her she should be open, and her body and her psyche not only going along with that. How come no one's saying you're not doing that? Maybe because there's a reason not to do this openness thing. Can you see why you wouldn't want to tell a person to be open right away, especially a female kind of a person? Other people too. I don't want to be only against men in that way, because there's a lot of men issues I'd love to talk about too. Okay, go ahead and look at me through those, behind that rock. What do you see? She says, I'm checking you out. What are you checking me out for? I want to see if you're the kind of person that I would really like and who could really meet me and meet the needs that I genuinely have. Oh. Do you think her open self, when she's trying to be open, is thinking, are you the right person for me? Can you meet my needs? I'm aware of my needs. Maybe I should find out if you're the right person who can connect with those. She's not thinking any of that. Openness doesn't mean those things. Openness is a narrative that she got about how she's supposed to be, that she now believes and pathologizes other qualities, shames other qualities. Not being open lives in a shamed spot, and I should bring that to therapy and have people take that away so I can be an open person. And if you go along with that, you're complicit. Not consciously, you're not a bad person, you're complicit in helping this person deny their needs, not check other people out. You're not ill-intended, but you are aligned with her narrative, her witnessing narrative, which says being open is a good thing, being closed is not a good thing. Yeah. When you hear that story, you ought to be thinking gender. Is that part of what you think a woman is like? However you want to look at her sexism and her internalized sexism, right? You want to be thinking that because there's a woman coming. If it was a man coming, you could ask a different kind of question about that. As a man, do you think you should be tough and strong and hard? Is there a gender issue here? Shit, yeah. Shit, yeah. I ask her that question. Is that being open as a way you think you should be as a woman? She's like, yeah, If she said, no, I wouldn't push it. I'm not going to say, you have to believe my theory, my viewpoint. But I want to ask because I want to witness not only a personal issue, I want to say, you're living in a certain system that's putting you down, and you're not free to be yourself. Okay, final question. When she comes out to meet this new guy that she's going to go out with, and she's going to check him out and be aware of her needs, is she more open or less open? What's openness? Because we start off with the problem of openness, but the whole thing has to be revisioned. What's openness? If I come and say, hey, Cassandra, this is who I am, and these are the kind of needs I have. I want to go slow and check you out a little bit. And before I'm married and all that stuff. I'm just playing Cassandra's not my thing, right? If I did that, you might think that's a really open person. Open to myself, open to getting to meet you, open to my pacing, open to really wanting to get to know you, all kinds of things. What was openness? That's super common, that kind of thing, by the way. People come with a symptom and we try to help them get rid of it, get rid of my stomach aches, get rid of my belly, which is too big and round and flabby, get rid of my closeness, etc. Get rid of my stutter. Symptoms are activist in nature. And now I'm starting to bring that into other things, which is gender. Is there a gender issue in that particular spot? Likely, possibly. Let's get to know it. All right. I want to move to another kind of place where activism and psychology blend. And you're already seeing in that story, because you could say that story in part is a story of, well, abuse in a spiritual community. Do you know how many people come to me from spiritual communities who say they got hurt? Why are they coming to me? Because the narrative around that is you should be open and forgiving, not just in the churches, in the temples, by the way. Yeah. So we have that particular aspect of the culture, the religious moral culture that people are developing, the culture that says forgiveness, etc. And then we have cultures that have ideas about what it's like to be a good human, woman, man, etc. Right? So now we have social issues that are part of that story. And if that person comes out, maybe when that stutterer comes out, she might be changing a culture. This woman, when she grows into herself with the openness, she might start confronting spiritual communities around sexism. That's coming. Because pretty soon she's going to check them out and say, I don't need certain things here. Yeah. All right. I want to talk to you next. So I'm bleeding into the territory of internalized depression, which is a really big deal for many people. And I work on that like I work with everything. Let's amplify what's happening. How do we get to, what do we do if we're not shaming, if we're not going along with the get rid of, relieve, release, let go of, make it less? We amplify the message. I'm not saying I want more stomach aches, I want more stutter, but we ask it to be bigger so that it can be heard, just like any voice that's not being heard. Let's amplify it. Let's make it bigger. That's what we're doing in the social world, hopefully. Let's listen to the people who are not being listened to and give them a microphone or a voice somehow or a protest or something. And that's what we're doing with the experience. And what I do with internalized depression is I say to people, can you hear that voice or make up the voice that you feel? Not everybody has voices in their head. But if you walk into a certain atmosphere, you get treated a certain way. You feel it as if it's a message, right? If a black person comes into a store and nobody wants to touch their hands when they put the money down, fucking gross. Then that person feels a message. And then inside, they still internalize that even though there's no words. You're dirty. I don't want to say these words. I don't want anybody to take them in. You're dirty. We don't want to touch you. You're less human. It's not good for me to be near you. These kinds of messages go in. So people have internalized depression. You can access it in the form of a voice. It's not always a voice because not everyone said, you're fat and ugly. Nobody's going to love you. But people feel that and they can make words like that to help you get in touch with what's happening inside. Okay, that's the idea. I want to show you a video of me working with Angelica. Again, people gave me permission to do these things. These are not just, okay. Can people see that, me and Angelica there? Angelica is a PhD principal of a major school system in New Jersey, United States. Brilliant woman. And what I'm asking her is this energy, this voice in your head. She says, sometimes I don't feel like I'm doing well enough and I should be trying harder. And I say, could you please make that voice out loud? So I'm going to just play you a bunch of little clips. I play you 10, 15 minutes of it, but it would take too long. Oh, I see I have 6 minutes left. I need more. Okay, let me give you the first bit. What is it? 1750. Okay, let me start here. So, hey, that's funny. Okay, wait. When you're like being hurt, that's a different laugh. Okay. Can you have in something inside you that says that doesn't like you, or let's say it that way, or something like that. Okay. And can you give me the words that it would say?
Hurry up, move faster, don't be stupid, get it done, please people.
Okay, now she's giving me the words. I'm doing that because I want to out what goes on inside of her. I want to amplify it. I don't want her to have more of that in her life, but I want to know what's happening for her. I want to know her experience, not my theories and ideas. Theories and ideas are good for writing books. I want to get to know her. That voice sounds pretty tame, doesn't it? Do you think the energy of it, the tone of it, the quality of it is like that? You have to think, maybe not, let's do it more. So I'm going to move on just only another minute, basically. I want to see what
Don't be stupid. Get it done. You know what needs to be done. You're taking too long. People are going to be tired of waiting for you. Then you won't have the job.
Okay. I'm asking her to can you say that more? Say more to me. Give it to me more. Tell me more. Dear voice, dear critic, dear whatever you want to call it. Sometimes we call it an inner critic. Dear inner critic, talk to me. Tell me more. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to out that so it's clearer. And I do that a number of times to amplify that because I want to know what's going on. And I'm only moving like a minute later. So it's not like a long time later, but I just want you to hear how this thing develops.
Have known that.
Right.
Why didn't you prepare for that outcome?
Okay.
You cause these situations that you don't like.
Right. And say it stronger. Say it stronger. The person is not, some people say, but you don't want to make it stronger than she really has it. If you say it stronger and your client does, it lives in them that way, energetically. Otherwise, they can't do it. People can't make up this stuff unless it's in them, unless it's totally incongruent. You would know. Okay.
Idiot sometimes. How could you drop the ball on this? How could you miss this opportunity? How could you not have planned for this? You were supposed to be there.
One level stronger.
What the hell is wrong with you? You are a waste of space. You
Okay, that's pretty intense. Let me go.
don't exist.
Okay. You are a waste of space. You should not exist. Oh. You feeling it now? Now I'm witnessing. She's witnessing. She doesn't know that's actually inside of her. And she's a pretty awake, intelligent Black woman. She thinks I'm just not doing as good a job and I should do a good job. She doesn't think something is saying, you're a waste, you shouldn't exist. I'm just wondering, because I have another 30 seconds. I'm
It's
not
heavy.
okay. Yeah. Just wanted therapeutically, what happened? She goes, that was heavy, and she laughs. That's because her system is saying, whoa, I didn't have heard that before. I just got an insight. That was very important, what just happened. That's what that means. I call that feedback. It's a energetic exchange also coming from the body. That's not the laughter that's funny. That's the laughter like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That was like a really big thing. She didn't know that lived inside of her. I'm waking her up to something. What am I waking her up to? Okay.
I lost my awareness. Like this.
I won't go into that. I actually got a little dissociated when she said that to me. A little bit. I was like, whoa. And I thought that person, Joe, was asking me, what do I do with that? Sometimes I could have overridden that. But I thought maybe it's also because it's happening to me, maybe it would be an interesting mirror for her to see how powerful that is. Because it made me kind of go, whoa, whoa, whoa. I could have just stayed with it, but she was very moved by me doing that. That was good. If she wasn't, I would think waste of time, David, move on. Okay, I don't want to do much more of her, but I want to do just a tiny bit. No, there's too much to do. I have 2 more minutes of stuff and we're done. Okay, I'm not gonna continue with that just because I don't want to. We had an incredible discussion in that class about internalized depression and internalized racism. It was amazing. As being a Black woman, is that something related to being a Black woman? Oh yeah, she says, right? And everybody in that class, there was 130 people in that class, wanted to learn what she just learned, what she knows, her body knows, she walks around in that world, but she doesn't know that's happening inside, how that internalized oppression lives in her. And now she's heard it. Whoa. Out loud, she was moved by it. A number of times later, she's kind of going, whoa, holy shit. She came the next week and told me how she talked to her daughter in a way that they've never spoken before about what lives inside of them. There's more things to do around internalized oppression because, and I'll just give you a quickie on that, but I can't show it. What we did next, which took about 5 more minutes, is I said, now I want to say those words to you. And I want you to be close to your body, your somatic experience, and see what happens. Don't think, don't figure it out, don't analyze it, don't give me your narrative about why people are like that. Tell me what your body experience was. is. I do that with people, and I get very careful. I say, are you ready? Yeah, I'm going to say these words. Okay. I'm going to say the words, you're a waste, you shouldn't exist. Okay. I'm still not saying it to her. Why am I doing it that way? I don't want her to receive those words without awareness of what's happening and her response close to her. I don't want to injure her, but I do want to help her body, allow her body to educate her about what's happening inside, and the feelings she's having in her body are feelings she has around a lot. Those are her intelligent responses to that internalized experience. I want to help her make that connection so that she doesn't think, why am I getting this experience? Why am I getting these cramps? Why am I getting these colds, etc.? That she can make some connection between those. Okay, I see it's 11:04. I wanted to talk about eating disorders and show you another video, but that would take about 7 or 8 minutes. So I'll defer to you, Cassandra, and what's right for everybody at that point. If I should close up, just tell me and I'll make some kind of close, or if I should go on, whatever you think is best. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know there's so much to cover, so thank you. I guess what we could do right now is take a short couple-minute break and then come
Yeah.
back, because we have until past,
Great.
and we can open that space up to a dialogue if anybody has questions. But David, if you wanted to sort of say a bit more on kind of where eating disorders come into this, maybe we can think about that through some of the questions too. So
I mean,
let's do that. Just thinking about the next 20 minutes we have
Yeah.
together, and it might be good to hear from some people in the audience if you have any questions or reflections.
I think so too. Thanks.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So also you can raise your Zoom hand or write in the chat, or just unmute. Again, just
Yeah.
be mindful if we talk over each other, it might happen. But yeah, if anyone has any questions. Lauren, please come in.
Yeah. Hey, Lauren. Hey, Lauren. You're muted. There you go.
Sorry, it takes me ages to unmute sometimes. Like, oh, where's the button? Thank you. I'm finding this really interesting, and I'm wondering about social expectations and how that can shame people where they
Yes.
don't want to get. I'm thinking of somebody in particular who doesn't want to really get what she defines as a normal job. She understands that she needs to earn money,
Yeah.
and she feels a terrible sense of shame around it because it's not really what she wants, but she knows she's very capable of doing that. But really, sometimes she says she just wants to lie down.
Okay. Lauren, can you role play that client just for a couple of, you can exaggerate them and then I can show you, what I would do.
I'd love to. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Sometimes people say we can't do that perfectly. Even if I supervise a lot of people, even if people do it in an exaggerated form, I get to see and feel the experience, and I'll know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's enter some spot where that's important. What's going on, client? Something's been hard for you about jobs and finding jobs, and tell me more.
Yeah, well, I've been accepted for this job, and my partner really kind of was instrumental in me getting that, to be honest. Like, I didn't really make the effort to get it. But anyway, I've got it now.
That's already so important to me. I mean, I don't know this client yet, but it's already so important to me because you didn't put the effort in, meaning your energies didn't move you that way, but your partner's energies did. Well, that's a relationship issue we could talk about at some point, but go on, I'm listening more.
I just have such a real sense of shame and guilt about it because I just don't really want to do it. What I really want to do is lie down and drink some red wine and smoke some cigarettes. That's what I really want to do. And then I can't tell people because then it seems like I'm ungrateful because I've got this job and other people are struggling. I just have shame and guilt.
I wouldn't cut my client off but I was just only because of our time here.
Yeah.
So I would say at some point we should talk about being ungrateful and your relationship with your partner. And I want to help you be more you and more true and have a voice with what's right for you in your relationship. And then at some point we should talk about that, what you're calling shame and guilt. That's more like something that puts you down. We should bring that out and see how I can help you with that. And then the last thing, and the most interesting thing, perhaps for our time, would be to tell me what it's like to lay down and drink red wine. And can you close your eyes and tell me, what's it like? What is it? Imagine you're lying down.
Freeing,
Say it again.
freeing.
Freeing. Go ahead. Feel the freedom. Lie down in your mind or lay back, sit back a little bit now. You're
Mhm.
drinking a glass of wine and feel that in your body. Just take a moment, take your time. There's the glass of wine. There's the lying down couch or place you're lying down. Let your body begin to relax a little bit. If you're having, maybe I can help you with that. Sit back a little bit. Let your shoulders, there you go. I'm saying that, everybody, because I want the body to get activated a little bit more. Freeing is a word. I'm not against that, but that's not a body experience yet. There you go. And let your shoulders be more like lying down. That was it. You take a deep breath. I saw that. Take a couple of more of those. Why am I saying breathing? Because she did it in a way that I could see. I'm a witness. Yeah. And next time when you take one of those deep breaths, make a sound that goes with that deep breath. Lying down, glass of wine. Oh, I heard that. Can you make that sound again? Uh-huh. Okay, great. I'm going to stop here because we could go further, Lauren and everybody. So what am I hearing? Did you hear that sound? Listen to this. We witnessed this. I'm a witness. And what my mother didn't do, or what the cops don't do, or whatever, I'm a witness. And right now I'm witnessing her somatic expression. That was not words, somatic expression. The voice is soma, the movement body is soma, the feeling body is all soma. And that sound, listen to I'm gonna make two sounds, one more like what Lauren did and one different. Here's the different one. Ah, ah. And here's this one. Ah. Do you hear the in that voice? In her whine and laying down is a. I would be very interested, so I'd hang out with that part of the voice. How would I do that? Let's do that part again. Can you show me a face? Can you show me hands that go with that? Let's invite the body. And she has some pushback and resistance in her to going along with things that she needs because she's going along with the relationships and culture's expectations. That she finds that laying down for some reason. Why? I don't know exactly because I haven't followed her, but I have a good idea from working with people. She's leaving her normal self, who's more compliant and thinks she should be even more compliant. Does that make sense? I should go along more. People should be grateful. And she lays down, that means, and has a glass of wine. She leaves her normal self, her usual self, her dominant self, the part of her that's more powerful, that's more her mainstream, also goes along with the productivity and ideas of the culture. It's also a capitalistic productive aspect of her, a gender aspect. I should be grateful, etc. All that's in that upper self. Now she goes into this and she finds something else. Yeah, there is a kind of freedom, but freedom is not as important as the energy that's going to get her free, that's living in her. Now, that was too fast, and we'd have to follow your client a little bit, but I'm just trying to give you the sense of the direction to go. I didn't say anything about the alcohol. If I had that client, I would talk to him a little bit more. Do you drink a lot? I just want to make sure that drinking is not, this is a big issue and this is how you manage things. And I drink till I pass out and end up on the streets with people. I just want to care for that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just when somebody
Absolutely.
mentions any kind of substance, I want to care for that. I didn't do that in the moment. But I wouldn't be cavalier about that. I'm interested in the state that she's getting into. The state that she's getting, the symptom is laying down and drinking wine. That's the symptom that doesn't go along with her culture, with her gender identity and how she should be grateful. Probably gender. I'd have to ask and make sure that's true. And a capitalistic notion of being productive and getting a certain amount of money is the way to be a good person. So I'd want to. That's how I'm understanding her, and I'm wanting to find out what lives in that symptom. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really helpful.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Maybe there's somebody else who has a question. You can bring a case. You can bring your own experience. You can ask a theory question. Anything people want. I'll give you a minute. If you don't ask me questions, I'm going to start talking and showing you videos. That's my threat, you know. That's my New York sense of humor, by the way, in case people are not knowing it. No one else has a specific thought on their mind, something they want to bring forward or ask? Somebody's writing something. I'll read that. I notice something when clients speaking a real truth and authentic experience, they tremble. Yeah, the body always responds to, I'm going to call it congruence. That means the body language, the tones, and the knowledge, what the person's really made of, are all lined up. That's when a person is telling their truth. Does that make sense? Like if I'm saying, yeah, I'm not upset, that's incongruent, right? It's fine, Lauren, whatever, right? That's incongruent. I have tones. My words say one thing, my tones say no, that's incongruence. When people come congruent, it's a very special moment and their bodies always have reaction. Giggles, moisture in the eyes, change of color sometimes in the face, change in posture, closing their eyes and taking deep breaths, different things that the body signals. That was a moment like what Angelica did in that video. She like giggled and went, whoa. So then we find out that something has happened there. Yeah. Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi,
Yeah.
thanks, David. This is incredible, really moving.
Oh, great.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to bring in, I was listening to a podcast by a member of our community here at TaSC, Nicola Blunden, who writes and talks a lot about the concept of epistemic justice, which is a kind of like radical believing of the client's experiencing. And
I
I
love
just
that.
wanted
I use that term in my second book, Radical Belief.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And it's just it's all kind of coming together for me in a really powerful way.
Yes.
So I think I just wanted to bring that in, and like the role that we play in listening and
Yeah.
believing and not shaming the client's experience when they carry so much shame about their own experiences.
Yeah.
Incredible for me. And it's just like, it feels like it's, for me, just sort of putting this together is like elevating that connection I'm feeling with some clients where I've found like myself splitting a little bit, part of me doing that and part of me still asking the questions and still kind of, ooh, I wonder what to do with this, and actually just being able to let go of that challenging and doubting voice and just be with them in that experience.
Yeah. I mean, there's two things you can do with that. The challenging and doubting voice, you can work on that yourself. How would one way of doing that, I would stand up. I'm saying it that way because people don't usually do it. I would stand up and I would, not with the client, by yourself or with a friend or a supervisor, whatever. And I would say the challenging, doubting voices out loud, as forceful as you can.
Yeah.
Because you want to know it. You don't want to be just like, because you want to say, I don't think that's true. Sometimes I don't want to listen to you. Have it out. Not with the client. Make sure that part of you is expressed in full. Don't suppress it, but it doesn't belong to the client, but it belongs to you. I don't believe you. I'm not tired of listening to what you have to say. I have my own viewpoints and they don't go along with what you have to say. I would say all that out. You have to do this. If you do it in your head, it won't work. You have to do it with voice because of the sport, and in a way that your ears hear.
Yeah.
Literal ears. The body has to hear to witness. If you do that out loud and then ask yourself this one question, where do I need more of that energy and voice in my life? You will find places that don't belong in a therapy setting. I doubt you. I'm not going to have to listen to you. I don't believe everybody. You might need it. So it's still medicine. It's still a symptom. It just doesn't have enough space and consciousness around it.
And I love how you're not shaming that voice either. You're saying that has a place.
It belongs.
But not in the therapy session. That's amazing.
It belongs. It belongs. Doubt certain people. Don't listen to some people. Help some people. Screw you. I'm tired of listening to you. I'll never listen to it. Believe you ever again. Have that live somewhere really, really good. And then the other thing is to have some skills in how to follow a client. so that you can put your authority and your powers. You don't have to say, I'll just sit back and do nothing. I know what to do. Like I was doing with Lauren, I have very specific agenda. I'm going to follow her, focus, follow the details, and make sure those get focused. And that's going to take some, I'm going to use my authority to say, let's spend time on that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a relationship. My partner said this, but I didn't go along with it. Oh, that's a relationship issue. I'm going to identify that. Do you want to work on that relationship issue? So I'm going to, oh, you're having a feeling. She says, oh, I'm free. I understand. Let's go back. Let's make a body experience. So I have a very specific task where I can use my authority, but my authority is not, I know better than you. My authority is, I know how to help you get to your intelligence. I don't have the intelligence, but I know how to help you get there. And the more you have that, then you'll feel empowered and you know, with what your work.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate it. Yeah. Is there somebody else?
Someone's put in the chat, and I'm assuming that this relates to the sort of example with Lauren. And they
Yeah.
said, I'm imagining that you would work the same way with a very collapsed posture and a client whose default is a what's the point? Is that right? So I guess maybe that's sort of more nihilistic position.
Are they saying that the client was saying what's the point, or the questioner what's the point?
Yeah, I think the client, if the client sort of presenting in a posture of like, what's the point and
Yeah,
collapse.
if the client is showing a collapse in the body, and then what's the point? Then I would encourage them into the body experience and amplify it. Not everyone will do that, and we have to have done. That's an advanced. I have to show you then a skill session. Like, what do you do with that? But let's assume the client will say, "Yeah, what's the point?" Or showing a little bit of that, right? You call that hopeless, things like that. I would help them go into that experience. Go ahead, collapse. Again, we're doing this too quickly right now, right? Because I have to watch the person and see how fast I can go and how far I can go. But let's imagine I can help them move into a collapse experience in the body, not in their heads, because the head's going to come up with an interpretation based on the narrative they've been told about collapse, which is going to be negative, which means you have to uncollapse as fast as possible so you can get going and do the right thing and be a good mother, father, worker, and all those kinds of things. So the collapse, and then they have to go all the way. Go ahead, collapse. Go ahead, collapse all the way. Go ahead, really, really collapse. If your body could go more, that has to take a little while. I teach students in these 10-month trainings. For my students to work with a client and do that for 5 minutes, it feels like a long time. It's not a long time to spend 5 minutes in a person's body experience, a person's experience, not their ideas. But so if you can get a person into that deep collapse, incredible. Stay there. Go ahead. Give up all the way. Become totally hopeless. Whatever the words they use, I would echo those words. Give up all the way. Give up all the way. Yeah. And then I'd watch them for any signal, like an eye open or a relief or a breath. Or I might say, something must be lovely about that. What's so good about going there all the way, however they got in? They have to have a body experience, so they're speaking from their experience, not from their narration of their experience. And then people will tell me things. It's so good to give up. Really? What would you give up? I'd give up my job. I'd give up my relationship. I'd give up everything. Oh, interesting. Yeah, not all of you wants that life. That's okay. Part of you does. I'm not down on that life. That's a good life. Maybe you should keep it. I want to hear from that person who would be happier having it all go away. And then we can go into that, and then we would find out states, and over time we would find out who they really want to be that's not in that life. Collapse, other kinds of things. Half of the depressions, I'm making that up. I don't know. That's not a statistic. I just made that up. A big percentage of depressions and other kinds of hopelessnesses are about dropping out. Dropping out means I'm not only wanting to be up. Right? I was working with a guy who was working on wanting his penis to be hard, and he had done all these different things about it, and it hadn't worked, and it had been many years, and he felt inadequate. Right? He's a very high functioning, big executive business person. A part of him doesn't want to be up and erect and getting it together. He's just against that. And he's been going to doctors and therapists who are trying to help him be more erect, be more erect. Here's the pills, and his body doesn't only go along because something hit him. So I'm an ally. It's a funny word. I'm an ally of his penis, you see. Go ahead, drop down. Be soft, be flaccid. Don't have to be up all the time. Whoa, how am I going to get everything done, right? He's not a person who's needing, some people do need to be lifted, not him. When I first started studying that issue some years ago, Viagra, which is supposedly for erectile function, it makes men's penis harder, faster, longer. That was the largest selling drug on the planet. That's not because every man has erectile function. That's because of a culture, I think I would call it also a sexist culture, that says this is what men should be like. And if you're not like that, get there. And otherwise you don't get to feel good about yourself. You live with an inner critic that tells you you're not sufficient, you're not a man, you're inadequate, etc. Yeah, it's a social issue. And then the drug company is kind of banking on that. The diet industry, which is 5% effective, by the way, any diet around losing weight, is a $70 billion industry. And bodies all over the place are kind of going, no, no. No means I'm not doing it. And if you're shamed, you say, I'm not doing it right and I can't stick with it and I don't have enough discipline and I'm not found the right diet. And if you're unshamed, you think, my body says no to doing this. I say no to this program. Oh, really? Let's say no more. No to the program, no to the beauty standards, no to how I have to be this. No, that no needs to be so much bigger, not smaller. Yeah. Otherwise, we're inadvertently aligning ourselves with internalized sexism if we don't catch that detail. Yeah. Okay. If somebody can lose weight and they want to and it's easy, great. But I got to tell you, 5%. I've read 200 studies on the issue. 5% of the time that works. Okay.
Thank
Cassandra,
you.
we have at least 2 more hours, but
I know. I know. No, all of the comments and feedback have just been a massive thank you. And there's so much to explore, and just wanting to extend a huge gratitude to yourself for coming along and spending this hour and a half with us, which easily could have been 4.
I know.
I'm sure.
I have only two my short outline, but there's like half of it I didn't get to yet,
So maybe there's a part 2.
There is a part 2.
Yeah, I think we could do an amazing part 2. So just thank you to everyone for coming and spending your Halloween evening day wherever you are with
Pleasure.
us.
Thank you.
And yeah, we're really grateful for everyone that comes and shows up. So I hope you have a lovely evening. Again, David, thank you. We can put a link maybe for some of your works in the chat, so we can do that. I think it was already in there earlier, but we'll do that, just linking to the books. And also, if anybody's interested, we have 2 more seminars
new book,
for
Unshaming.
yes,
Gabor
it's
Mate
there.
wrote a really beautiful endorsement of the work. It's now being published in 8 different languages. It's not yet published in those languages. It's licensed, but it's being 8 languages. It's coming out in. Yeah.
And we should celebrate it. So let's have a part 2. I think everyone's saying yes, part 2. So we'll be in contact soon. But yeah, just thanks so much, everyone. There's 2 more seminars for 2025. So hope to see you at those, and you can find them on the Therapy and Social Change website. So have a good evening or day, and we shall see you very soon.
Yes, and you can follow me on Instagram if you want. You can find me there. And I put up lots of stuff there just to say that's a way to find out whatever I'm doing.
Put that link in the chat. I think I've got it right.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Cassandra. Great doing
Thank you so much
with you, and great spending time with you and your community here. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And yeah, hopefully we will see you soon for a part 2. Bye, everyone.